Testing 1, 2. Yep, it's working. Same as usual, just questioning reality. Why the fuck are people going through the motions of things in this world where it's so costly to yourself and other people, especially, and other animals, other things of sentient value? Why do people just go through the motions, just day by day, consume shit, fuck, perpetuate the cycle? It's not cash money. Let's just drive the point home.
Anyway, Hostile a Day has done another one of his less than brilliant videos, but he's good at this clerical work. He'd be a good clerk. He's good at nice orders of the stuff here, underlines things. Very nice, very nice. But his overview is just just crap. So anyway, let's play a little bit of this part.
Um, and I think this last one seemed heavily metaphorical.
Okay, so he wants to dismiss some of these arguments or premises, this evidence of a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Is basically the statement being made that life isn't some kind of freebie, that there's a question to its efficacy. The whole functionality of the system is being questioned. And these are the evidentiary statements that support the argument that there's a problem here. And so he calls this metaphorical, precious commodities controlled by crude forces. Now, these seem pretty explicit statements, okay? And so, I mean, it doesn't take much to imagine precious commodities. So the argument is, obviously, that sentient beings are precious, that their welfare is important, that it's not insignificant. And later in this video, he's going to play video of robots and claim because the robot goes, ow, ow, that hurt me in my circuitry, that somehow it's having a feeling, that somehow it's now precious. Now it's precious. Its welfare matters. If it was on the gurney next to the human and we were going to torture something, we couldn't figure out which one would really be feeling the pain. I mean, it's a nonsensical argument, I think. So, I mean, so added to this premise, obviously, a bit of argumentation that has to be argued to previous to these arguments to make them understood, because there has to be some acceptance. I'll write this down. Of the distinctive function, distinctively qualitative, no, value rich. I don't know. I'm going to put value rich. Function of the conscious sentient organism. That's the distinction of sentience, is the capacity to manifest feelings that have decisively qualitative weight. I mean, we know the difference between horrible suffering and peaceful contentment. And the difference, if you're not going to accept that there is this difference, that there is this distinction, and that the distinction is not important, but profoundly important, there's no, in my opinion, no ground for conversation. This is as important as the the round earth or the notion of gravity and having a conversation about the solar system. If I have to discuss the solar system and I can't use the word gravity, there's no point in discussing it. And there's just no point in discussing the meaning of life if you do not concede that my welfare is significantly different and significantly more precious than the welfare of a computer. That a computer feels nothing. It cannot, by any rational definition of the word harm, be harmed. It can only be mechanically broken or destroyed, which means nothing. So I just don't see any, but to call this metaphorical, like I say, if you say something is precious, that's like saying, important or valuable. So valuable commodity. So if you were to call sentient organisms valuable, that is somehow a metaphorical statement. No, it's an explicit declaration. You either accept it or don't accept it. If you don't see the value in sentience, if you don't think sentient organisms are more important than the rings of Saturn, I don't know the welfare of them. If the rings of Saturn blew up tomorrow, how would it matter except sentient organisms might be emotionally disturbed? But otherwise, it wouldn't mean it can't mean anything. It can't be a meaningful event because it has no meaning gravity, because it has no sentient welfare. And if you can't understand that, I have no hope for you. Why are you arguing with me? Because we do not live in the same universe. We do not live in anything called close to any kind. We don't have the most fundamental references are in contradiction and conflict. And there's no point in having a conversation. So if you're not willing to concede to me my point that sentience is important, then we have nothing to say. Controlled by crude forces seems an explicit, direct statement, nothing metaphorical about that. Crude force, that's a metaphorical statement. It's not metaphorical, it's a description of what it is. They're crude forces. They have no elegant understanding. They have no capacity to do 2 + 2 math or, cancer is bad math. They can't do any math. They're crude forces. They will destroy and break and mess up things for no reason but mechanical reasons, uncomplicated reasons, unsophisticated reasons, reasons likely to have nothing like justice or fairness or any kind of principle involved. There will be no principle involved in what the crude force will do. So again, to call that metaphorical, sorry, no sale. Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. Well, the consumption clearly is not metaphorical. I mean, that's as explicit as you can get. We consume the resources of the planet. Reproduction, explicit as you can get. Okay, it's a self-replicating mechanism. Cannibalism, okay, there's some metaphorical content in the sense that it's not cannibalism in the strictest use of the word, where you're cannibalize the exact genetic code that of your own. But it's cannibalism in the sense of social cannibalism, all kinds of different methods of cannibalism where you're consuming things of equal or commensurate value to yourself. You're consuming sentient welfares, and that's the use of that as a metaphor. But is that an illegitimate metaphor? Is that metaphor stretching a reality or a truth, or is that metaphor quite explicitly a statement about the current condition? That we exist in a world where to gain our happiness, we often have to put other people at risk or jeopardy to get it. And in doing that, there's a kind of cannibalism. My gain good, his pain irrelevant. That kind of psychology is a reality. That kind of behavior is a reality. And that kind of behavior can only be called one thing: cannibalistic. Consuming your own kind. Consuming your own value. And addiction. Well, addiction is a pretty explicit technical term. It has a technical definition, and there's every fact that we are fundamentally, physiologically addicted to existence in just the biological way. You will be tormented if you don't breathe, if you don't eat, if you don't do these fundamental things. And that all of our chasing of the Cheeto, the ambition, is made out of some form or another of addiction. So this isn't a metaphorical statement, it's an explicit statement. All right. Replication for the sake of replication. I mean, how is that a metaphor? How do you call that a metaphor? It replicates for no other reason than it replicated. And now it will continue to replicate because that's what it does. And it does so for that reason and no other reason. We exist because a cell, some 3.5 or 4 billion years ago, created a copy of itself. Not because it did on purpose, just because its structure was bombarded in a certain way, it was reformed into a certain configuration, and that configuration caused it to divide and create two living organisms. And to do so in a way that was sustainable, and that the new organisms would grow and do the same thing, divide. And that's the entire reason we exist, is because chemistry slipped on the banana peel of replication. There's nothing metaphorical in this statement. It is replication for the sake of replication. Yes, built into that statement is some unicorns didn't do it, God didn't do it, magic dust didn't do it. It's just a chemical process that now, through billions of years of engineering through natural selection, has created very complex organisms. But the fundamental process is still sperm and egg, and more importantly, eggs dividing. No metaphor there. 15, life. We are insufficient, inefficient, and of poor function. I don't know if exactly, I mean, I say it's insufficiently efficient, but same difference. Um, yeah, so he doesn't like the conclusion and claims it's a metaphor. And again, this is a clear word. Efficiency is a clear concept. And clearly the implication is that this efficiency is going to be decided or determined through some value weighing. And we must weigh values. Yes, of course, that's what you do. You weigh expenses to profit. And that's how you decide whether you have an efficient scheme. Is, do you gain benefit? Does it make something of significant value to justify the cost of what you had to fertilize it with?
I hate being alive. Just trying to find a call show to talk about interesting shit on. I can't. Christ. Hmm. Fuck, is this person live streaming like a bazillion things?
Compassion, equanimity, joy, clarity, everything you can find in the great perfection of silent awareness. Freedom. I want to say something about that. Free will. So much discussion about free will. What is it? Does it exist? When you go in, you notice immediately that everything goes spontaneous. Everything arises spontaneous. There's no one doing it. Life does do it, you can say. I am doing that. I am life. What is freedom? What is free will? Forget a separate individual. Forget that. What is freedom? Go in and see what you find.
It's a bunch of fucking nonsense.
That's freedom.
Wow. So deep.
Freedom is a concept, a way of looking. Just in the same way you can find love in everything. You can find freedom in everything. It's life going its way. And when there is less and less and less blockage,
This man doesn't even pay attention. Just talks to himself. These people are so cringe. Howdy do. Life is pain, my dudes.
Is you have to what you have to do with it is take it seriously. Okay, if you're gonna believe in evolution, if you're gonna concede the reality of evolution, yeah, it basically blows up the God theory. It blows up any kind of contrivances attached to that. So blow it all up and start from scratch and realize what we are. We're chemical machines, okay, that have been built over 4 billion years, and we've been tested in what can be called, quite accurately, a gladiator war, where the machines went into the battle,
Cat.
and if you won, your DNA replicated, and that's all it was a war.
Cat
And
going
as
after
time
weird
evolved, that
deer.
war became more complex. As the organisms
Weird
evolved, they
dog.
get more and more elaborate tools. So we have all these elaborate individual tools. And then it became gang warfare, essentially. Then you become gangs of lions or gangs of this and tribes of that. And then the tribe's genetics essentially starts evolving.
What was that streamer you were arguing? It
Call
was
it what it
just
is, okay?
which
There's
one? The one with like
exploitation
10
all
people in
over
it,
the
or the
place. To talk about
one
this
I
adaptation
argue a lot?
niches and this
So
balance crap is just a
that one
lie,
I kind of
okay?
doxed
There's
myself, and
winners and
so I
losers
deleted
and
myself. I
disgracefully
deleted this.
uneven
Sorry, deleted
proportions
myself.
on this
I
planet,
deleted the stream
to sit there
afterwards,
and
but kind of
glorify
doxed
the
myself midway
mechanism
through
of
the stream. So I
gladiator
was like,
war.
whatever.
Okay,
I'm
fight
not
for
gonna give
no
my
good reason.
exact address
Kill
away to the
10 of
whole
your
world,
kind, or
especially
maybe
considering I have like
500
100
of
subscribers.
other sentient creatures.
But I was willing to
Fry
use it
them
for
up in your
argument
pots and
purposes to
cook
be like,
them.
I ain't no coward, and like y'all hiding behind your armchair bullshit.
Evolution is a story, and it's not a good story. It's a story of a forced march. 4 billion years of little machines struggling to trip the other guy, to fuck the other guy over, to eat the other guy's guts. I mean, there's organisms all over this planet right now whose only mission is to dig a hole inside of you and to eat your fucking brains. I mean, don't talk to me about how balanced and brilliant and purposeful and niche all that crap is. That's not a legitimate niche. There obviously isn't any sensible, rational, logical reason to perpetuate gladiator war. No, there's no way you can
It
make
was a
this
vegan
naked
atheist
truth of
stream, yeah.
evolution
The
into a good
atheist
story. It's a
experience
negative
and
story,
this
decidedly
stream of
negative.
atheists, vegans, and stuff.
The
It
function
was
is
really cringe.
survival
They're all just like, oh, nothing
by
matters. You
any
can't prove
mechanism, any
anything
means
matters.
possible.
And I'm like,
Whatever
okay.
can happen, can happen. No
I'm
umpires,
like,
no
come,
rules,
let's meet up.
just a blood
We'll
sport,
prove things matter. We'll prove
and
your
for
sensations
nothing.
matter.
No, nothing in the end. Just a raised hand. I win, you die, and it's a crude and stupid game. Our intelligence only exists because it was a scheming tool, because it made us better at stealing star energy from other organisms. And that's the only reason why it exists. And it still remains its only function is to be used as a scheming tool to derive gratification or satisfaction of our selfish individual desires. And most of the human race is completely still owned by that nonsense. They still are more obedient to the notions of nepotism, family superiority, nationalism, racism, than they are devoted to any high-minded ideal of civilization, of decency, or justice. Life is a sad and tragic story in nature, and humanity has done nothing to write a better chapter in the life book. We've disgraced our intelligence, insulted it, brutalized it, perverted it to sick and depraved purposes. And it's all over our culture, all over our economic systems, all over our entertainment. We are American Idol at the core. We're just crass and stupid and superficial. And again, it's at this price of the suffering. I mean, I could go on. You go on for the suffering forever. You could explain, describe the horrible death that we'll meet. That will be the fate of most living sentient creatures. There will be a a last gasp. There will be a long, hard, nasty, ugly road to that last breath. And as long as people aren't in that sinking boat at the moment, they're just going to party and pretend they're all yachting, even though they're on the Titanic. And the truth is written everywhere, if they'll open their eyes and look at it, that they're on a boat that's going to sink. It's so obvious. And really, people are so far from taking any responsibility for dealing with what reality is, and all for a stupid purpose: to make a machine that goes into an arena and fights with other machines, to simply say, I win, and then die. So its sons and daughters can play the same game all over again. It's insidious. Popularity? You're not making a rational argument explaining it. Just answer the question. How many kids have to die on a big Ferris wheel for you to say, shut that thing off? The price is going to happen. 1 million people every year are going to kill themselves. That's the price for your little life adventure. Millions of people are going to die of malnutrition and starvation. That's the price of your little game you're playing. You have a delusion in your head, an addiction. You think the heroin is worth chasing. Rational brains look at the thing and they say, why would you do this? Why would you get yourself addicted to a silly Cheeto and pay this preposterous price to go chase your Cheetos? Your moments of satisfaction in this existence are just that, little trivial, silly moments of joy. Ooh, I outsmarted my next door neighbor and fucked his wife. Little, Scrooge-esque, Ebenezer Scrooge-esque glory moments where you're, I stole 50 cents at the store. I mean, the little bullshit that gives you a jolly is just that. It's bullshit. It's been there, done that. Been there, done that. It doesn't do a damn thing for anything else but you. Your deluded psychology, your deluded need. Okay? It's your need that's the problem. It's not the Frankensteins that are the problem. It's you making them that's the problem, fucker. So you're just going to ignore the subject, right? You're just going to pretend that human life has meaning, and because you say it, and you have enough of you to say it, that means it's the truth. So you're just resorting to what? The argument from popularity? You're not making a rational argument explaining exactly what the function of life is in the universe. You're not explaining what itch it scratches, what comfort it gives the universe, what need it serves, what need it satisfies. Nothing. Because it doesn't do any of that, shithead. It accomplishes nothing. It's a car that just spins its stupid wheels, and it does it at the price of these misanthropes you speak of. And would you call all of them misanthropes? All the people who would say to you at the end of their life, I'd rather not have been? Every one of them, Jack Kevorkian, we could go down the list, there's Schopenhauer. It's probably a pretty long list of people. When you ask them at the end of their life whether it was worth it, they would say, no, I really wouldn't do that again. I did the best I could with it. But yeah, it was kind of just bullshit. Just a big, giant pile of bullshit. This little fantasy you think life is. Life is brutal. Absolutely brutal. It has these pockets, these packets of just harsh, unrelenting, merciless brutality. And especially at the end of life, where it starts to take everything from the individual and gives them nothing back, gives them nothing, just takes and takes and takes.
And for you to just talk like everybody who thinks this is too messy, too sloppy, too imperfect, to be just without even question, just keep marching the march, just keep doing what we've always been doing. Be a good little goose stepper, be a good little flag waver. And you know how fucking ignorant you sound? To anything with an intelligence?
No God saying what the truth is. So you have to compete with my truth. My truth is you suck. You're just a selfish little consuming monster that is injected into the world and set loose on it. You know, unless you grow a brain, you're capable of lots of damage, causing lots of harm with your desire to acquire. That's the definition of our reality. That's the definition of the force of evolution, is to make machines that consume and reproduce and cannibalize. And they're going to do it through a desire to acquire, an addiction force. Yeah, that's the force. Addiction.
Well, good night,
A
my dude.
pointless and senseless need to have. Not because it needs to be had, but because you
I'm gonna be
can't be
here
comfortable
trying to
unless
make
you
people
have
watch
it. And the
pain
simple
until they
solution is
fucking
to
get the
say,
point,
don't create the problem.
not to
But
create the fucking
atheists
problem.
like that solution. They don't like that as the answer. That's the conclusion from evolution, is that it's just a big waste engine, that you're not accomplishing anything, that you're all just a bunch of maggots swimming in a bunch of diseased and rotting corpsey flesh that you call your earth. Get real. Life is stupid as stupid can be. You're just addicted little stinking dirty maggots. The whole game is crap because it was built by a crap engine. Life is just, it's consumption, reproduction for no good reason, for the sake of reproduction. Cannibalism, which means on an island planet, that's right, it eats its own ancestors, it eats its own parents, it eats its own kind, it eats things of its own value. And addiction, it's motivated by a feeling mechanism that creates intense motivation for it to keep digging in the humus. But the game is that as atheists, you are conceding there is a rational reality to be discerned. And the rational reality is that you don't have to be a fucking bug. It might be a bug planet, but you don't have to be a bug. You don't have to think like a bug. You don't have to feel like a bug. So yeah, control your lizard, control your ape, be an intellectual, and recognize in some sort of solemn humility that being atheist comes with the burden of understanding. It comes with the burden of a higher moral doctrine than the babble of the Bible. Yeah, you're obligated to give a shit about what it all adds up to. And what it all adds up to is a stupid game played for no purpose that just eats pieces. It just eats pawns and bishops and kings and queens. It just eats them and eats them and eats them. And the game keeps getting played because no one says stop. Partly because the religious nuts won't let anybody say it, but I certainly don't see the non-religious doing anything to say this is part of being an atheist. Part of being an atheist is just recognizing there's no rational good story here. It's all a bad story. It's all just a fucking mess.
Fucking hate everything at this point. No one seems to realize shit for shat. They just think it's just whimsical atoms bouncing against each other. Things are so whimsical you can never discover the truth behind them. That it's just a sucky, fucking brutal game of consuming. But no. Apparently it's not obvious enough. Apparently you can't have a formula. And without the formula, a mathematical formula, little code things, people just can't download it into their little heads. It's fucking insane.
You are in a position to claim truth, probably about lots of things. You're just saying, I want to keep this idea that science hasn't revealed the truth, which is you're just a psychology. Okay, a completely fuck-nutted, addicted Looney Tune who's chasing something that just doesn't exist. You're chasing happily ever after, and it doesn't exist. You're heading for a brick wall, a bloody mess. If you get any satisfaction or real comfort in life, it's going to be momentary and it's not going to last. And that's the way it is. It's just stupid. Look back on your life and say, well, what would you pay to redo any of that? Come on. We're chasing better, okay? That's why science exists. It's not running from religion. It's not fighting religion. It's looking for something to hold on to, something to say, well, look, we're going to get rid of this disease shit. Let's get rid of this hunger shit. Let's fix a problem somewhere. And they just treat symptoms, unfortunately. We're more in the Band-Aid business than we are in the penicillin business, however you want to metaphor it, and that's what science is stuck in. And science is owned by capitalists, so yeah, they don't have any imagination, so we really don't go for the big deal, the big finish, the big let's do it right one time and just get over with. No, none of that shit happens, so we keep doing it the wrong way, the sloppy way, the shortcut way, the tacky plastic way, and yeah, I agree that's dumb, but that's not the problem, okay? The problem with life isn't scientists. The problem with life isn't religious people. The problem with life is this life is stupid. It's a stupid chase. Everything about us only exists because a cell acquired the capacity to reproduce and then evolved for 4 billion years. Evolved through basically a carnage of competition. Fitness was defined by a silly definition. Yeah, the other guy's dead. That's the definition of fitness. The other guy's dead. We're a psychology. We're little need machines chasing our fucking potato chips, whatever metaphor fits for you. And that's all there is here, shithead. There ain't nothing else. We've been contrived to run a race for which there is no purpose in running. To survive for the sake of surviving. We're the thing that comes out of 4 billion years of running a stupid wheel. The universe is a bunch of cold, hard, nasty physics. There isn't anything soft and fluffy out there. And if there is anything soft and fluffy, it's in just as big a fucking bucket of shit as you are. You're not going to be able to help it, and it ain't going to help you. It's not science's fault human beings are motherfucking greedy and selfish assholes, and that every bit of technology you give them, they use it and abuse it and suck it dry. All right, the fact that scientists figured out how to make gasoline out of crude oil isn't a crime. The fact that human beings can't moderate their consumption is the crime. We've discovered that human beings are absolutely full of shit. They'll find a God anywhere, anywhere. Anywhere there's a little bit of fog or a little bit of doubt or a little bit of mud, and they'll say, I saw God in it. And they see it on their cheeseburgers and their waffles. They see it all over the fucking place because they're looking for it. They're looking for something. Magic. All right? There isn't any. Sorry. Okay? There is no real magic. There's just, 100 or so elements and some forces like gravity and strong and weak nuclear forces and a gazillion little pieces of stuff moving, okay, for no reason, just because it was caused to move. And this is how it all ricochets, and we're just the fucking ricochet. We're just the chip that flies off the rock, on the misfire. There's nothing here. There's nothing here to do. It's all goddamn bullshit. And the more we talk about these phantasmagorical possibilities, the more we delay getting real and recognizing we've had nuclear weapons less than 100 years. We have absolutely no prospect of ending this violence that we use as a solution to problems. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And if we have anything to cling to, it is if there's any hope at all, the only desperate hope we have is that we can somehow convince the human race to gracefully get off the stage before it completely humiliates itself.
What the fuck is the point? Well, what drives y'all? What drives y'all? Because nothing drives me besides preventing fucking future me's from existing. What drives you? What drives you to go through this hellhole? This fucking useless, fruitless thing. Every day is the same. Every day is the same as the last, and your future will be the same as yesterday. What the fuck is the point? You can switch it up a little here and there, but fundamentally it's all the same. It just seems pointless. Because it is. Does it seem? It is.
They can't look at it honestly for what it is. It's just chemistry, first. More importantly, the life part of it. It's just a DNA molecule all over the place. Consume and reproduce. That's the only mission of any reproducing piece of chemistry. And it's going to be the only mission, even if there were other life out there in the universe, they would be stuck with the same problem. That's the game. Consume, reproduce. Consume, reproduce. It's just that simple. But most people aren't ever going to see it that simple. They're always going to try to make it into something. Life is something. We're going somewhere. We're doing something beyond just consuming and reproducing. But that really is all there is here. All this biosphere is consumption and reproduction. It has no soul, it has no heart, it has nothing. All it has is this element of it, this part of it, this fungus that's growing, that has this sentience, this capacity to be aware and conscious and feel. And that's where the word harm is invented. It's when you have this vulnerable population. I mean, that has obvious implications. There's nothing preventing me from judging the natural world, seeing nature for what it is, just dumb forces. The more I've thought about it, the more I've come to realize just how obvious it is what we are. Quite obviously built to take advantage of the environment, to maximize, to offer the opportunity for conquest, or however you want to look at it, to do the consuming and reproducing thing. We're just trapped on an island, and so we're stuck doing that. Organisms have to do it. There's not an alternative. We know where we came from. Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, because it's an island planet, essentially. A bunch of evolving organisms on an island, they will start eating each other. And addiction. So once you got to a sentient creature, you have this motivational mechanism of just an incessant and unyielding desire and want. And it will not be satisfied in any kind of holistic or efficient manner. Exploitation is almost a requirement of any kind of accomplishment or obtainment of any kind of quality of overall existence. The ultimate logical conclusion is there is no game. The game can't be won. The end game is a graceful exit. The cleaner we get out of here, the more intelligent we'll prove ourselves to be. The longer we prolong it, the sloppier we allow it to become, the more we just prove we're idiots. You know, it's all going to be erased anyway, so give it up. It's only a sick addiction that keeps it going. Don't make more of it. Life just isn't a game that can be won. Let's just concede it. And let's get out of here as gracefully as possible. You got a counter argument? Bring it on. It's all going to be gone. Every little tiny piece of it is going to be gone.
You're not satisfying a need that doesn't exist in your own creation. You create the need by existing. It doesn't exist before you exist. It exists when you exist. That's the problem with this life game. It doesn't satisfy a need that pre-existed it. It creates the need and then satisfies some portion of it very inefficiently. You call that a broken machine. You call that unfunctional. A machine that consumes more than it produces is not a machine you turn on. It's a machine you turn off. You can't just say, well, because it's not easy, I'm not going to do it. You can't just say it doesn't exist. You can't pretend it away. You have to acknowledge it, the horror you're imposing. You either vote for it or don't vote for it. I am voting against it, and I'm advocating that people vote against it. I'm saying it's wrong, and I'm suggesting to other people that they ought to be honest and say it's wrong. Not complicated. Wrongs are easily identified in positions of harm, in positions of a negative consequential impact on sentient beings experiencing negative sensations. If you precipitate that happening for no benefit, like no greater number of sentients are spared suffering, then you committed a wrong. I'm saying it's a bad idea to procreate. I'm saying other people should say those very words. It's a bad idea. Don't mess with that. You're not God, so don't play God. It's a simple enough slogan. You're not God, so stop playing God. There, that's not too complicated, is it? The subject of philosophy, serious thought in general, is failing dismally on the internet. And that's the tragedy. What I'm saying is if anybody ever did take this philosophy stuff seriously, if there was a fair and open and honest debate of this subject, it's going to kick ass. Are you going to make the accusation that I'm propagandizing heavily? No, I don't think I am. Propaganda would require me to distort perspective in some way, to somehow overdo it. And I don't think I could overdo it. I mean, I could just explain to people how many animals right now, how many sentient apes, or monkeys, simians, are being tortured in laboratories every day for their health care progress. And how there's no justification for that. It's no better than tormenting or torturing retarded humans. And it's only done because of religious dogma that allows this distinction to be made. A silly, idiotic, propagandist perspective. So I think the propaganda is all on your side of the argument. The hopeful and the wishy-washy and mishy-mushy pink panty-wearing Pollyannas are the ones who have distorted reality and pretended that this game of slaughter we're playing is of no consequence because they've negated the conscious reality of all the other sentient animals on this planet. That's propaganda. Through your personal experience, you become one of a class, and that class will exist in the future. I'm an advocate to protect those people from the people who are ignoring them. And they're ignoring them now in the present, and they'll ignore them in the future unless something changes. That's why I'm advocating for a change.
Self-evident and uncontroversial fact is that life serves no function in the universe. The universe doesn't need it, and none of us needed it prior to our conception.
Life is life. Life is a mechanical process. Nothing more, nothing less. There's nothing dignifying about a body breaking down, rotting every freaking day.
Just consuming, reproducing, molecule, doing its mechanical function.
Life is a requirement of all harms. No harms exist without it.
We are inhabitants of a vessel that is going to nowhere land.
We recognize the mechanism and we want to end it.
Have the intelligence, A, not to be blinded by the pursuit of money, sex, and power, and B, to take the clues that are offered and to put those clues together and to solve the puzzle and to not waste a lot of time with distractions and irrelevancies. That's what Buddha did. He saw the sick man, the old man, the dead man. He said, I figured it out. I got it. I'm going to go be a yogi. Contrast that with everyone else, the rest of us, right? How many of us have never been sick? How many of us have never had a person in our family who was sick? How many of us don't have anyone in our family who's growing old and feeble? And how many of us have never experienced a death in our family? None of us. We've all experienced those things. And yet, most of us, in spite of having experienced those things, are busy spinning the wheel, playing the game, pursuing all the trappings of money, sex, and power to the utmost of our ability. The better job, the higher salary, the bigger house, more furniture to put in the house, the more beautiful wife, more handsome husband, the fancier car, the vacation home, more vacations, better food, better drink, etc. That's how most of us are engaged with this pursuit of money, sex, and power. And we never get off that hamster wheel. We never stop playing the game long enough, or just stop long enough to look at what's going on, to work on the value equation, to pull out the scales, say, here's the broad and deep pain and suffering, goes on the left hand, let's balance that against all the trite pleasures and delights, the chocolate-covered strawberries that go on the right. Do the scales balance? Most of us never even bothered to work on that equation. The Buddha didn't even waste his time with that. He knew instantly what the truth was. Of course the scales don't balance, not even close, okay? And he didn't even bother with that. Really, this isn't, in principle, a very difficult thing to understand. You don't need to rack your brain with a lot of torturous philosophical struggle. You don't need to have a library full of books and read Sartre and Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, or even David Benatar. There's nothing wrong with that. Better than going to the bar and getting drunk. But you don't need to do that. This is a fairly simple, straightforward concept that anybody can understand if they put their mind to it. Life is suffering.
Life sucks. It's short and redundant. Life is absurd.
The stain upon this earth. I know what life is. I know that life is pain. I know that life is suffering.
Suffering for no reason.
Life is infinite being that can only be finite if we end life itself.
All we can do is to end life.
It's time to end life's drunken reign on earth, and that is by preventing further existence of it.
You either get it or you don't.
Either get it or you don't. Hope he's wrong. It doesn't seem like he's wrong.
So, what is life? Life is dying slow, day to day.
Life is not a gift. Life is unacceptable. Life is cruel. Life is unjust.
If there's one thing to say about mankind, there's nothing kind about man. You can chase out nature with a pitchfork, but it always comes roaring back again. For want of a bird, the sky was lost. For want of a nail, a shoe was lost. For want of a life, a knife got lost. For want of a toy, a child got lost. That encapsulates what life is for me. Life is the escaping of pain.
Life is that which creates the values of deprivation and suffering in the universe.
One of the clearest, most concise, and strongest arguments to be made in favor of the philosophy of antinatalism was made by the Buddha himself 2,500 years ago. He said, life is suffering. Buddha was a prince. His father was a king. He was surrounded by opulence. He had concubines. He had all the money, sex, and power that anybody of that time could wish to have. Yet he knew, or if he didn't know, he had strong suspicions that something was amiss. There was something not quite right with the world. His parents did everything within their power to make sure that he was shielded from the harsh realities outside the palace walls. He was allowed to experience and indulge in every pleasure. He was protected and shielded from every pain and inconvenience and annoyance. But nevertheless, he arranged things to go on a tour of the town to see what life was like for the average person. And when he was on that tour, he saw three things that caused an explosion in his consciousness that forever changed him, changed the way that he would look at life, and set him on a new path. And those three things were, first, he saw a sick man. Second, he saw an old man. And third, he saw a dead man. And that was enough. He didn't need to see any more. When he became enlightened, he said, life is suffering.